Your Creator has made you part of His own Son, inside Himself, so that He personally would face all the consequences of your rejection of Him as your Maker and Father. Only thus could He bear your necessary destruction in His Son's humanity, yet justly recreate you in His Son's divinity. This is the eternal millisecond event that alone can transform the perversion we have brought upon ourselves. You and I endeavor to live as self-existent, self-made beings. But we find we have needs that only a Maker's love can supply. Things like security, significance, happiness. So we look to the world of things, people and circumstances to meet these needs. Not only has this produced the chaos of our present world, but it has deeply perverted and contorted our original natures. We try to establish our significance or importance by convincing other people to respect or fear or praise us. Even the involuntary movements of our little eyes show how much we seek favorable attention from others. Thus, our bodies try to find reassurance for our minds that we do not need the approval of any God greater than ourselves. While, of course, our whole being becomes incorrigibly dependent on others' opinions. But this sin or autonomy is like quicksand. The more you try to get out of it, the deeper you sink into it. So, for instance, our self-help efforts to produce humility usually end up as a kind of self-conscious modesty. Moreover, we find this self-made willfulness has a stubborn, self-preserving assertiveness that defeats all our valiant attempts to root it out. However many self-improvement books or techniques we use, we find that somehow self-centeredness gets the upper hand. And we find our life contaminated by self in many areas of our lives. We cannot believe that otherwise mature and balanced people could have such trouble with attitudes that they wish to avoid and habits that spoil their lives. Because of this apparently irrational behavior in ourselves, many of us set out to analyze deliberately and carefully our inner lives and tackle these symptoms one by one. First, we deal with the obvious ones, like physical indiscipline in eating or exercise. Then we move on to destructive family attitudes, like irritability and argumentativeness, critical comments, and bitter resentments. Meanwhile, we move on to the work attitudes of driving ambition and desire to be noticed, with, of course, the accompanying vices of envy and pride and jealousy. But we find by the time we've got some success in these, the others that we overcame before have sprung up again. So we have to start all over, until we gradually realize there is some common attitude here that continues even after the symptom has been suppressed. This self-existent, self-made conviction that governs our lives seems to be a many-headed monster that touches every part of our life and personality. The reality is that old-fashioned sin is simply missing the mark, or missing or evading the reality that you have a loving Father who made you. It's a bit like missing the key on the keyboard of the computer. You can't remember what others you might have hit in trying to find the right one. The results of missing the mark are similarly so numerous that there's no way you can track down all the parts of your original nature that have gone wrong. Only the Maker himself can rectify the myriad erroneous connections and short circuits that we have created between our spirit, our soul, and our body. Our daily frustration with ourselves comes from our belief that a DIY, a do-it-yourself job, will solve this. The truth is, nothing but a complete replacement will restore us. We are like the old man who was offered millions for his little house on a unique building site in the city. He was amazed at the price that was offered, and he spent weeks trying to make the house worth the price. At last, he finished all his repairs and renovations. The buyer came with his check and his bulldozer. He wanted only the site. The house had to be completely removed, and he intended to build a far bigger and better one. We too tinker with our personality and try to organize the parts as they should be, but only the Maker can remake it the way it was meant to be. It needs to be bulldozed and remade completely.